I've said since day one that election security will be the first and foremost priority of my office. On January 17th, I requested a full election security review of how we do things in Arkansas. What are we doing well? What do we need to celebrate? What are problem areas? What are our risks? And we have found that in Arkansas, we have so much to be proud of. When you go and vote in person in this state, your vote is secure, your vote is counted, your vote matters. And we do not have the problems that other states have. Some states in the most recent election had 50% mail-in votes. Arkansas has less than 1%. Some states had tremendous problems verifying their absentee ballots. We do not. We have the most secure elections in the country, and every day I will fight to keep it that way. We have so much to be proud of. We also have our challenges. Absentee voting, while less than 1% of the votes in this state, is still something that has inherent risks. Mailing in your votes will never be as secure as voting in person. And we will oppose any effort to expand mail-in voting and fight for the rights of people to vote in person, whether early or on the day of the election, because that is the safest and the most secure way, with ID, with great voter rolls, with the strength we need to say that every vote matters. As well, we have had problems with the petition system. In this review, we have found thousands of fraudulent signatures on our ballots. In a single amendment, there was over 5,000 duplicate signatures of people who signed more than once. Some on accident, but I'm guessing the person who signed the marijuana petition 6 times, that was not an accident. We need reform to make sure that when our Constitution calls someone's signature on a petition a vote, that we have real voter integrity. That's why I'm deeply thankful for the people who are working in the legislature to inform and make sure that we have a system that is full of integrity, a system that is secure, and a system with less fraud, people like Senator Hammer, and I'm deeply thankful for that. One vote that is fraudulent is too many, and in the petition system we have thousands, and we're going to reform it. We're going to fix our errors. We're going to require that canvassers make the ballot title available. We're going to require photo ID. We're going to do so much good to make sure that the will of the people is not diluted by fraud, but that it is protected. I'm now going to invite Nathan Lee, my chief legal counsel, to discuss some of the improvements where we are, and where we can get better. I'm thankful to the people of Arkansas. Your vote counts. Your vote matters. It is protected, and you are secure. Thank you. Come on, Nathan.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. My name is Nathan Lee. I'm Deputy Secretary here for the Arkansas Secretary of State's office. I have the pleasure of working with our elections division day in and day out. I'd like to begin just by saying thank you to our managing attorney, Ms. Hannah Banks, who was integral in the production of this report, as well as our Director of Elections, Ms. Leslie Bellamy, and our Assistant Director, Josh Bridges, as well as the many other civil servants that work in our elections division. There are so many partners we have in making our elections run in Arkansas and securing elections, whether it's the State Board of Election Commissioners, the county clerks, the volunteers that help on the election days across the state. I think a lot of times it can be a very thankless job. People only let y'all know when there are issues, but I just wanted to say thank you for all that you do to all those people that affect our elections process. Wanted to start with that. I get the pleasure of kind of talking about some things where we can do better. Like the Secretary was saying, we do a great job in Arkansas and have secure elections, but we always want to look on ways to improve our processes. One of those that the Secretary mentioned is voter registration. We're in the process right now of working with the federal government and the Social Security Administration in having secure access to the master death files, as an example, so that our county officials can kind of clean up their roles, so to speak, against those who might have passed away, but there is not a death certificate on file, perhaps. We also have memorandums of understandings with various states. Right now we have 4. Again, that helps us to kind of compare and contrast our voter rolls, make sure that we don't have someone voting in Alabama, for example, that's also voting in Arkansas. And we're also looking at, again, partnering with the federal government on finding ways to identify whether or not someone is a citizen or not of the United States, because of course that is a requirement to vote in Arkansas elections, is to be a United States citizen. Secretary hit on absentee voting. We need absentee voting for people like our veterans, as well as those that are disabled, to have the opportunity to do their civic duty and cast a vote. But it can be harder to secure because we don't have that individual there to kind of certify their identity as they're there voting in person. So that's something that we're working on. We have had success with some of our partners, State Board of Election Commission and others, in investigating instances of absentee voting fraud. So we look to continue those investigative efforts. And then finally, petitions. Petitions is where we have the most room for improvement in our process right now. Right now, there's little to disincentivize someone from maybe misrepresenting what might be on a petition initiative when trying to collect signatures. There are several bills going through the General Assembly in our legislative process currently that the Secretary of State's office feels like would better secure that petition process, and we support several of those bills. Right now, we're just, as the Secretary's office, we're very reactive as an office and retroactive looking back. We don't have any tools currently to be proactive in combating fraud in the petition process, and that's something that I think some of these bills would look to change. That's all I have right now. I'm going to invite the Secretary back up here. Mr. Secretary.
Yes, we have a few minutes for questions for anyone who has questions.
So can I ask, like, when you say there's fraud in the petition process, are you defining people signing a petition, say in May and then again in June, that is an instance of fraud?
So in our law, we have a list of Class A misdemeanors that are considered petition fraud. One of those is signing multiple times intentionally. So anything that's defined right now as fraud in our statute, we would consider fraud.
So if a person, say, signs, a petition on marijuana once, they're approached 6 weeks later by somebody and they sign it the second time, that person should be prosecuted for election fraud?
If they are doing it on purpose repeatedly times, the legislators already decided that that is a crime. But there is an intent there. It can't be on accident. It has to be on purpose.
And how would you prove intent?
So that's a criminal law question that prosecutors every day have to deal with. If you did it 15 times, there's probably evidence that's on purpose. If you do it twice and there's no other evidence, that would not show intent. I'll go on to another person with questions.
But one final.
No, I'm moving on. Thank you. Man, thank you. I want everyone to have time.
I have one. Pulaski County has had some problems, and a lot of people are wondering if forensic audits, like reviewing election system logins, would be something that you would consider investigating or looking at in the future.
I'd look at anything that I think could help us. If that's something that will help us detect any problems, I'd be happy to look into it.
Jonathan, Democrat.
Yes.
Has anybody been prosecuted as far as you're aware along the lines that Mr. Harding was talking about?
For petition specifically or in general, there was for petition specifically, no.
But you were going to say a little bit more. So
Yes, yeah, please. There was a case of, there's some electioneering going on in Union County, I believe, where the person was going to be prosecuted federally, and he passed before the indictment was issued. So there was that, but thankfully we've not had any serious prosecutions recently.
Are you saying some of the bills that you're in support of could bring petitions from a D to an A, anything like that, if you go through this grading system again?
We'd have to see, depending on what all goes through. If it is tight, where there is very little opportunity for fraud, I would be happy to stick an A on it. If it does not get to that level, it probably won't. We think there is lots of room for improvement.
2 questions regarding mail-in voting. First off, you described concerns about the security of mail-in voting. Can you just go over again what some of those concerns are security-wise, why they're less secure?
Right. When someone votes in person, we can see, 1, that they are definitely who they say they are. 2, they're not under pressure or coercion. And 3, that no one else's hands are on their ballots. With mail-in voting, all 3 of those things become concerns. We can alleviate some of that with security measures, but some of it is just part of that person who votes, there's a lot of hands on their ballot. That person who votes, they could be under compulsion at their homes. There's just more risk that's innate to the process.
Would you encourage restrictions or any legislation to perhaps tighten rules around mail-in voting?
Truth be told, we have some of the strictest and the best in the country right now. So it's difficult to find where we can improve, but if there are opportunities, we absolutely will do that. Anyone else? You had another question? Yeah, please.
Are there any specific examples of the mail-in voting fraud, absentee ballot fraud?
Yeah, there's the one in Union County specifically where there's some electioneering. Someone had requested a bunch of mail-in ballots to be delivered to an empty address that they were filling out themselves. That was several years ago, and the person, they were being investigated by the FBI, but they actually passed before the investigation could continue. We don't think it's a widespread fraud issue right now because we don't have 50%. We have less than 1%, so that's really being helpful. If you have another one, I think we have time. One more question, and we'll wrap up.
Well, Arkansas has some of the lowest, or some of the highest rejection rates of absentee ballots in the country, or at least has in recent elections. Do you see that as a problem that needs to be addressed? Or?
I think it's a really good thing because that means our clerks are doing their job seriously and thoroughly. And if they didn't work hard, then nothing would get rejected. It's difficult to reject a ballot, and they want to make sure that we have secure elections. And I'm deeply thankful to our clerks and election commissioners for doing their job thoroughly and well. And I think that's really what's reflected in that. Okay, thank you. You all have a great day.